5 lunchtime webinars to be hosted by SIMERA in the coming month. Before we get started, just a few housekeeping points. This session will be recorded and we will notify you when it will be made available on the SIMERA YouTube channel. Also during the session, please list any questions you have in the chat box. We'll try to address these in the Q&A session or even before if possible. I am Marius Cornier and with me today is Hannes Stein. Today we will cover in brief a question that is regularly put to us. What is PLM, who needs PLM and why? So here are our key takeaways for this session. So understand what PDM, product data management, and PLM, product lifecycle management is, including where it fits in with other enterprise applications. Understand which companies need PLM and the business value that drives the implementation of PLM. And lastly, but definitely not the least, see a case study of how PLM was utilized with the CSIR's National Ventilator Program. Okay, so I'm going to start off with a few definitions of PLM, and there are quite a few definitions out there. So here, the first one is product lifecycle management. PLM is the process of managing a product's lifecycle from concept through design and manufacturing to sales, service, and ultimately retirement. So that's a nice solid definition, but I quite like the second one. The core of PLM is in the creation and central management of all product data and the technology used to access this information and knowledge. And then the third one is sort of a combination of the first two. PLM is the business activity of managing in the most effective way a company's products all the way across their life cycles, from first idea all the way to being retired and disposed of. But I like to keep it simple by just saying PLM is a company's management system for its products. So PLM can be thought of as both a repository for all the information that affects a product, and then also, and most importantly, a communication process between product stakeholders. And that can be from marketing through to engineering, through to manufacturing, and through to field service. And it's important to remember this. The PLM system is the first place where all product information from marketing and design comes together and where it lives in a form suitable for production and support. So some people use PLM as an umbrella term that includes CAD for information authoring. But product information creation tools include word processors, spreadsheets, and graphics programs, requirements analysis, and market assessment tools, field trouble reports, and even emails or other correspondence. So thus, a PLM tool focuses exclusively on managing data that covers the breadth of a product's lifecycle without regard to how that data is developed. So what is a PDM then? Well, PDM manages CAD files with a computer file system. Product data management, PDM, is a specialized file system manager, somewhat like a CAD-orientated Windows Explorer. PDM's primary job is to manage CAD files and the linkages between those related files. These related files, the model, are usually a proprietary format defined by the CAD vendor. PDM assists in organizing the mechanical aspects of a product, but it is the CAD model or its derivative drawings and not PDM itself that has utility to downstream users. So most PDM systems today include these key capabilities. Document vaulting for saving and storing files and CAD to files from CAD to standard documents such as Microsoft Office, PDFs, and so on. PDM systems will track variations or minor changes, often called versions, and will also track a file's revision history, A, B, and so on. Security of data vaulted, protocols that restrict user access and disallow outside access. Statusing, often called life cycling. Examples might be like in design, or it's released for manufacturing, or it's obsolete. Then controlling access, which could be used by assigned groups or roles, and the access may be based on a lifecycle stages. Example could be that manufacturing users only see release data. Then very importantly, bill of materials viewing is typically a byproduct of 3D assembly designs stored in the PDM system and can give user a spreadsheet-like view of the components that make up an assembly. Very important is the searching may often be enhanced in a PDM system as various pieces of metadata and design attributes, product attributes, can often be stored in the PDM system and available for searching. And finally, and definitely not least, most PDM systems have integrations to 2D and 3D CAD systems. Most CAD vendors today have their own branded PDM that closely matches the CAD product. So the main value that a PDM system realizes is a single source of product data which allows you to optimize every task and reduces error and rework. Simple process execution ensures quality and repeatability of the work that you do. CAD design management streamlines collaboration and reuse of product designs. So the key capabilities of PDM can be extended to PLM functionality, such as the management of simulation processes and data, manufacturing planning, supply collaboration and vendor management, manufacturing process management, substance compliance, especially with product that needs to comply with regulations, implementation of full change management throughout the product lifecycle, aspects such as schedule management, project management, program management, portfolio management, to name a few. But other PLM functionalities include requirements management, systems engineering, product costing, quality control, advanced BOM management. So a question that is put to me quite often is that companies already have an ERP system. So if we have ERP, why do we need PLM then? Well, most companies that performs engineering and manufacturing need both ERP and PLM. The main reason is that each of these systems has its own purpose, and each system integrates and enables a different process chain in the process. So the ERP system integrates and enables the operational process chain. PLM, on the other hand, integrates and enables the technical process chain. So without PLM functions in the technical process chain, generally has its own data repository, which makes collaboration more difficult and increases the time required to pass information from one function to the other. In many instances, it requires data to be entered multiple times in different systems, which is not only time consuming, but also error prone. For example, the CAD part, the CAD product structure, which could be in PDM, may be manually entered into an Excel spreadsheet to create the full engineering bill of material. And part information may again have to be entered into yet another system to create the manufacturing bill of material, work instructions, and so on. The other not so obvious challenge is that without a PLM system, there are many systems in the technical process chain that potentially have to feed into the ERP system, consequently requiring either multiple manual data entry efforts or the necessity to establish several system integrations to the ERP. So only by using an ERP and PLM system together can a company integrate both the operational and technical process chains. And that will allow you to increase the overall efficiency and reduce time to market and lower the complexity and cost for IT, as only one integration is required between PLM and ERP to transfer all the data between the systems. So who needs PLM? Well, actually, companies that design and manufacture a product needs PLM. Now that's a bit broad, but if you look at the more traditional engineering industry segments like aerospace, defense, automotive transport, electronics, semiconductors, industrial machinery, and marine. All of these sectors need PLM, be it the OEMs or in the tiered supply chain providers. However, there's one industry that people sort of forget about, and that's the consumer product and retail industry. The companies that makes apparel, footwear, accessories, beauty, personal home care. Think of your Pep stores and Fushini and Woolies. Those companies are big users of PLM. And then another industry that relies quite heavily on, or should rely heavily on, PLM is the medical device and pharmaceutical industry. This is the industry that is heavily driven by regulations. So the management of your product data is quite critical. But to conclude this slide, people who are involved in one way or another in the developing, planning, or delivering of products need PLM. So why do you need PLM? Well, the reason why companies need PLM lies in the business value of PLM. Perhaps the most remarkable impact of PLM is the substantial efficiency gained when processing product releases and change. Non-automated process usually requires extensive document collection and copying efforts. Repetitive and error-prone change order creation and relying on time-consuming inter-office mail or an engineer walking the package from office to office. Involving supply chain partners may require express parcels, insecure lost mail, irrelevant or incorrect file attachment, and a host of other time wasters. So by design, a PLM system contains all product information in a secure central location. It allows multiple users simultaneous access to the data. It provides templates for change types, including predefined review workflows that gets approved by departments and interested observers. It identifies all dispositioning tasks and rolls up cost impacts automatically and utilizes email. So there's no lag between one person's approval and the next person's notification. Changes can typically be pulled back, reworked, and resubmitted without leaving your desk to chase down a physical package. Thus, by design, a PLM system can provide business value as shown on the slides here. And with that, I want to hand over to my colleague, Hannu Stein.
Thank you very much, Maurice. Yeah, thank you, Maurice. Hi, I'm Hannu Stein. I'm going to quickly talk you through a very nice use case. With the scene now set on what PLM is, let's quickly talk through a use case where PLM was actually used in practice in the field. And the project I'm going to use as this use case is the LIFE project spearheaded and driven by the CSIR. So the basic idea was to design the ventilator in record time to help with the looming crisis. Now, this time frame is 2020, utilizing a national network of suppliers and manufacturers with experts and engineers distributed all over South Africa. The need to track the history, the development history and the distribution of each and every of these devices, and provide in-field support to the medical staff. And obviously, because this is a medical device, you need to get SAPRA approval. Otherwise, you do not have a valid medical device. And because this is a medical device, it is all guided by regulations, policies, laws, standards, and yes, good old engineering practice at the end. But the big drivers for this project was time. And it was time because the pandemic at that stage was upon us. But never forgetting regulations, because this is a medical device. So the activities obviously included all the regular old engineering stuff, ideation, system modeling, CAD for 3D design, simulations, both structural and flow, CAM, generating the manufacturing files, generating the injection molding files, the actual manufacturing, going into testing and validation, of prototypes, then going into mass production, distribution, and then obviously at the end, the support. The difference here is, again, medical. You need to track each device throughout this whole life cycle, because each device at the end need a thing called a history file. What made this more difficult is that teams were not part of the same company, they were not even in the same building, they weren't even in the same province. In fact, the design teams were located in 5 provinces, with manufacturers located in 2 provinces. Final integration and packaging were handled by a different company. Then these devices were distributed all over South Africa by various parties, and then in-field support were handled by yet another company. So you can see there was truly a lot of different companies and entities involved in this project. Here we are, and all of this during lockdown. And remember, we still need that history file tracking the history of each device. So all of these engineering activities were basically done by different parties. So the design were done, the system modeling were done by one, analysis and flow were done, manufacturing were done by different parties. And previously you would have had at least 12 systems handling the individual data. Now that per se is not a problem. But the problem came in because now you also have at least 11 interface systems to make sure that the data are consistent between the 12, and also to make sure that you don't have to re-enter data repeatedly. Because at the end, you need to make sure that what is being manufactured and tested and delivered is actually that latest design that has been approved and meet the client's needs. This leads to a lot of admin, and that just kills the timeline. So, Siemens Teamcenter to the rescue. PLM. No more 12 data systems, no more 11 interface systems to handle and ensure, that the consistency of the data. No, what you have now is one data backbone. All 12 functions work on the same data set. Engineers and manufacturers now know that they are working on the latest data, because it is the same data that everyone is working with. Technical people are left doing technical work, and not a lot of admin just to keep everything together and ensure data is consistent. And because everyone is now on one system, all the data is now on one system, this makes creating that history file much easier, because now you only have to look in one database for all the data, from system engineering at the beginning, manufacturing, to where it's being used and how it's being used, and not 12 systems. So the end is timeline achieved, customer happy, but more important, devices are delivered on time. Okay, that was just a very quick overview of how Teamcenter made a difference. Driven by, I must also just say this at the end, driven by the CSIR, they had an immense task to keep together all these people. And I think their choice to really use the enhanced capabilities of a PLM gave them great dividends at the end. And with that, Marius, I'm back to you.
Thank you very much, Hanu. Okay, so there are a number of ways to start with PLM, and I invite you to contact SIMERA through the email addresses shown on the slide. Most companies do not fall neatly in a PDM or PLM box. Every company's requirements typically fall somewhere in between, either with what they want today or where they want to grow. But here's one recommendation: to start with PLM. Start with a pre-configured PDM, tailored to your business needs. PDM takes control of your designs, documents, BOMs, and processes. primarily to drive engineering efficiency and productivity, but also to improve collaboration across the business. Then grow over time to include PLM capabilities and integrate with enterprise applications with a schedule that's aligned with your business strategy and within the resources available to you. But I strongly recommend to either contact me, Maurice Grenier, or Hannes Stein on how to get started with product lifecycle management, and follow us on LinkedIn. Then I would just like to invite you to join us in the upcoming lunchtime webinars. We will explore the following topics. Next week, we present how to scale your product, your PLM capability. Hannes Stein and Henny Rutt will present push and pull workflows within an engineering and assembly environment. We will look into NX CAD and the reason why people use NX. And we will conclude with a discussion on SimCenter simulation tools used to predict performance. And with that, I'm opening the floor for any questions. I'm just going to keep our email addresses up there. If you do have any questions, maybe later on, feel free to contact us. Hanu, I don't know if you want to answer, Eric. If you have PLM at CSR, you already actually have PDM. PDM is the basic or the foundation of PLM.
Yeah, yes. Maybe Maurice, if I can jump in there. If you already have the software, now CSR, you have the Siemens software. Obviously, I've just been speaking about it. So you have an installation, and I think from your side, what you need to do is contact your system administrator. And just get access to the system. PLM, PDM, if you have PLM, you have PDM. PLM just gives you much more. Does not mean you have to use everything day one. You can start slow by simply integrating your NX into the system. At least then you know that the CAD will be under configuration. You will be able to do revisions on it. You will be able to do workflows on it. You will be able to get it released for manufacturing, released for testing, released for simulation. But you will be able to get your company workflows, your company procedures and workways mapped as workflows to make sure that all the designs, all the work you do follow the right procedures. So I think for you, the easiest way is contact the system administrator, speak to Peter, speak to Rian, and I mean, we can take it from there. We as SIMERA can also assist with a lot of that stuff on your system.
Yes, I know. I just want to maybe add, and this is just an idea. So within Teamcenter Active Workspace, especially, you can create different roles, groups, or functions, and you can then create a specific environment or for those groups, roles, and functions, so that they can have access to certain functionalities. So even if you have a PLM system, but you only want your designers, your drafting office to have PDM capabilities, you can then in Active Workspace limit those functions to only PDM, to what they can see and what they can do.
I think the one assumption I made with my speech as well is that everybody in the CSR sits in the same department, which is obviously not correct at all. So the team center is driven from the Future Factory and Robotics team. So that's Rian and Peter. So if you're inside that team, it is very easy. If you're not, you're still inside CSR, so it should still be very easy.
Thanks, Tony. Shahid, you had a question.
Yeah, thanks for the talk. Very informative. You mentioned with the ventilator, the medical compliance, right? So, in our group, we've been looking at product systems development, opportunities, and sometimes the compliance, not sometimes, but often the compliance issue comes up, the aspect. So it's either, for example, aerospace industry, medical. Are those, so you start with the requirements, regulatory type of requirements, etc. Are those built into PLM in some way in the Siemens platform, or do you have to bring them in some way? So it says, like SAPRA requirements or, other type of medical requirements, compliance requirements.
Yeah, it depends. I know Siemens has built in or has some of these data sets available where you can just hook into it. Most of it, if it's I don't want to say non-standard, but most of the regulations and requirements you have to build in. There is exceptions in the Siemens world. There's always exceptions, but most of these things you need to build in. What we did with the MVP is a lot of the medical requirements we just built in as requirements, and then alongside with that we added all user requirements. So there was from the client, there was a list of just simple user requirements, and I mean it might have been as simple as just build a ventilator, and then obviously the CSR system team, they had their bunch of requirements working along with it, depending on the gas in the hospitals and then the sort of plugs and connectors and stuff, and then we worked in the standards and regulations that was really applicable to this level of medical device. But to answer your question, most of the time you need to build it in. But I know for the bigger aerospace stuff, there is, I want to say add-ons. I don't know if that's the correct word, Marius, but there's add-ons and stuff where some of these things has already been plugged in because it's international standards. And then obviously also the Siemens family is big, so there is a big chance if you start to look in the Siemens family that somebody has already done that, and a collaboration between parties can then most probably be established.
And
thank you very much.
Maybe something I would like to add to that is, for example, the MVP was a purely mechanical device with no power. But let's say it's a ventilator, a much more advanced ventilator that required software to control it. So there Siemens has Polarion, which is ideal for cyber physical systems. And Polarion is very strong on requirements. And Polarion and Teamcenter integrates very well. The link between those two is requirements. So Polarion is then used for software development and Teamcenter for hardware development. Eric, your hand is raised. Do you have another question?
Yes, I do have another question. I think in our area, one of the reasons we want to implement Teamcenter, we want to move away, especially on the CAT side. We want to move away where people are saving CAT files on the computer. So I did implement the Teamcenter, install the Teamcenter and NX. But what I've realized now is that we've got two options. Either you can open the NX on its own, or you open the Teamcenter and open NX. So my question is it possible to open NX only, then comes up with integrated Teamcenter on the side? so that to avoid this thing of saving from the computer. I'm not sure if my question is clear.
Yes, no, I think I understand your question. So no, it's you can operate Teamcenter, especially the Teamcenter Active Workspace user interface directly from NX. So you don't need to go into Teamcenter. The ironic thing is when you launch it from NX, you are then in Teamcenter, and you can then open it from there within the NX environment. So it might be worthwhile to share you a video demonstration of how that's done or how it works, if you've not already seen it. But I think part of what you've now just described here is that there's a lot of you need to do a lot of work training afterwards in the use of Teamcenter. So speaking to ourselves or to Siemens, to show you, okay, what are good practices for designers and using Teamcenter within your CAD environment. And that's something we would like to do on our YouTube channel as well, is to post videos to show, okay, these were typical questions that our clients asked, and here's a quick guide on how to do it. So Eric, I don't know if that answered your question.
Yes, I think you've answered my question. Maybe I'll send you emails and yeah.
Yes, please
Yeah,
feel free
please
to do that.
Please do. Just the one thing there is it is a bit dependent on the version of NX that you're running. If your NX is an older version, that active workspace integration wasn't there yet. But I know the CSR, I think you guys are right at the bleeding edge of version. So that should not be a problem on your side. So I think it's literally just the configuration and the setup and the beginning. So that should be an easy fix. I know you guys are running both the Reach client and the Active Workspace client. And I do believe that last year somewhere Siemens did upgrade it, or was in the process of upgrading it to at that stage the latest revisions of Teamcenter as well. So in your case, it should be possible.
All right. Okay.
Because yeah, it's easier. It's like Word. If you can open up Word without opening up Teamcenter, it makes it very nice because you just work in the application. NX is the same thing. You just open up NX and work inside the application, but have it linked to Teamcenter. That's much easier than to open up Teamcenter and to then.
Yes. Okay.
But it will be much easier to understand it with if we do a video demonstration.
Yes.
Any other questions? I think on that note, I would like to thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Van Stein, and also Nicholas, who arranged this. I see there's one message being typed, so let's just wait for Nicholas Minar to no, thank you, Nicholas, for joining.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining. And yeah, if you have any questions, please email. The email addresses are on screen. I think the first two you'll get directly to us. We don't mind being spammed. Please ask. Yeah, thank you very much for joining us.
Okay, and I think with that we can stop the recording.